morning. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. We're in our Wii series. Today's title is Wii Injuries. And the pictures you just saw are from some websites. There are more and more websites now devoted to injuries occurred during Nintendo Wii activities. And I want to just come back and visit a few of these pictures real quick. The first one here, this kid has stitches in his head from playing Wii when a light fixture broke and fell and hit him in the head. There's a picture of a lady here with a black eye. Yeah, that happened. That was the result of a downstroke while playing tennis from her tennis partner in Wii. She took one to the eye. Look at this kid. That little kid, I almost hate to say this, was hit in the face by a parent while boxing with Wii. Can somebody say social services? Right? Hey, playing Nintendo Wii can be risky. It can be intense. Injury can be a sure result. And the same is true of relationships, isn't it? The Wii of community. The same risk, or greater risk, is possible when we take seriously moving toward the Wii of community. And the deeper you go, the more at risk you are at getting hurt. We've mentioned this a little bit in recent weeks. Today we're going to talk about Wii injuries and how easy it is to keep our distance from others or from real community, meaningful community, because of the inherent risk of getting hurt. I was on Route 50 a number of years ago, headed east toward Chantilly, and this is back in the day when Route 50 was really bad. And I was just sitting in traffic one morning, and a guy from our church, and unfortunately they moved out of the area a few years ago, but he was sitting right next to me, and this was a great family, a super nice family. Gotten to know them a little bit. They'd been attending for, I'd say, a few months. And I look over and I see him, the dad, the husband. And so I wave, and he didn't see me, and I realized that he was on the cell phone. I realized immediately, angry wasn't the word. I mean, this guy was ripping somebody apart. And I heard it. The windows were down. We talked later about his sunroof was open. The windows were down. And I mean, this conversation involved mothers of people and sons of people. And the volume was loud. The volume was loud. And when I waved, he didn't hear me or see me. And so he's just giving somebody the run, man. I mean, it was intense. And then he turns and sees me. And I love those moments. You know, if there's just a time where I could have a picture like hanging on my wall, just a moment in time, that would have been it. His face when he turned and saw me. You know, I mean, what do you say? Hey, good morning. We talked later. He and his wife and I think probably the next week in church, they got me after church, and she was the one on the other end of the phone call. And so she comes up kind of grinning. She's like, he is humiliating. And she told me the story. He wasn't angry at me. He was angry about something at work, and he's just like coming unglued and talking about how God, where is God? We go to church, but he's not in my business. He's not at work. She's telling him God's always close. And then he's using the language, and she's like, honey, this is what she says, right before he looks and sees me. Honey, watch out. God is always watching. I love that. I love it. You know, on a serious note, I remember times I was a very young new pastor here, starting here in the Dulles South area, and I met up with another pastor for lunch one day. I didn't know any other pastors in the immediate area. I was looking forward to it, and I was just so disappointed. I mean, crushed at how this lunch went. This guy was condescending to me about who did I think I was, and what just, I felt like I was in front of a firing squad. And I left that day crushed, thinking maybe I had found like a pastor friend, or somebody who could encourage me or just know what it is to start a church. I remember a guy that attended our church for just a little while here. Super, super nice guy. Got to know him. I enjoyed the little bit of time I had with him. One day at Starbucks, all our conversation just went bad and hurried. And not only was he angry with me, but he was angry in front of people at me for something we had chosen not to fund as a church. It was our youth ministry. And he had a teenager. We had 5 teenagers at the time. We had over 100 kids in our children's ministry, and we had decided we were going to hire a children's director for our children's ministry. And he was angry about it. And man, and I just remember that numb feeling getting into the car, just feeling stunned, like shocked. This has happened to you too, hasn't it? We've all been there, haven't we? Maybe you're there right now. Maybe it happened from a spouse, maybe a best friend, maybe a Christian at church. And I want to talk this morning about this tendency or temptation to keep our distance when it comes to community. The self-preservation that we can all feel because of past hurt. One of the great marks of a maturing follower of Christ, one of the great indications or great marks of a maturing Christ follower, or even of a strong church for that matter, is when they accept that everyone comes as is. When they see and accept and believe that everybody comes as is. Rather than complete, or in a completeness form. That's what we expect, isn't it? I mean, if we're honest, don't we expect people when they behave, when they talk to us in their behavior, in the way that they address us, in the way they respond, don't we expect completeness from them? In their thoughtfulness, their attitude, putting themselves in our shoes? Of course we do. Very rarely do we just accept that people, everyone, comes as is. And you know what this really speaks of? Again, if we're honest, it speaks of some self-righteousness inside. Because not only do all of them, everybody else come as is, so do you, so do I. What I mean specifically by completeness is what the Bible teacher John Ortberg calls normal, in referring to normal people. We expect people to be normal, whole, complete in their interactions with us, in their behavior toward us. And what I mean by completeness exactly, or what John Ortberg means when he refers to this requirement of people to be normal, is that we have an inner awareness. We have an inner awareness of how others should behave and how they should choose. Apart from sin. Apart from the attitude of selfishness the Bible calls sin. The Bible scholar, the Hebrew Bible scholar, the Old Testament was written in Hebrew, his name is Neil Plantinga, writes about this